What if I told you peace in this world can only truly be held up by violence? Not kindness, not diplomacy, violence. And nobody in the anime makes that more apparent than Gojo. See, I prefer to believe peace is not weakness, and strength is having the means to end one's peace and choosing not to. I want you to let these words linger for a bit and ask yourself this. Why is it the strongest characters are often the ones who fight the least? They fight a different fight, a war waged without violence, and yet they're the biggest reason peace is preserved. This is how the world works as well. This is the paradox of deterrence. Today I'm looking at deterrence from more of a philosophical and an emotional sense, as opposed to nuclear strategy. Basically, I'm more interested in the idea that peace often exists because someone is capable of ending it. Here's where Gojo comes into this. His mere presence is the reason cursed spirits and other jujutsu sorcerers stay in line. The reason curses had to become stronger. Between Limitless and the Six Eyes, you've got your work cut out for you trying to face him. That and the strength he has from being sought through Gojo. And as a result, most threats never materialize because engaging him becomes irrational. Fighting him is throwing your life away, essentially. I mean, he instills fear, brings balance and peace. Not only do the cursed spirits feel this, but the jujutsu higher-ups as well. But this is absurd in a way. Peace existing because violence exists. Normally, peace is the absence of such violence, and violence brings an end to such peace. Taking all this to account, the system depends on him being active, uncontained, uncontrollable, in the eyes of many, unbeatable. Once he's removed or sealed rather, there's a destabilization. Peace has its true psychological deterrence, all centered on Gojo. And this is shown to us as early as the first couple of episodes. Joko makes his stance on trying to face Gojo very clear. He doesn't believe he can beat him. Them having to seal Gojo in the first place is a big example of how much of a deterrence Gojo is. The moment Gojo's sealed, Kenjaku operates freely, casually spike, the Jujutsu world's entire structure buckles almost immediately. So what does it mean to be Gojo? To be the deterrence? What responsibilities does he carry? How much weight does it hold? When things go wrong, is it his responsibility to be accountable? All these questions naturally come from being the reason or cause of such deterrence. Now, I do think there's a responsibility that comes with it, one that becomes a burden over time. I truly believe it's a different kind of pressure not many people will ever get to experience. I call it a burden because there's a loneliness from being the strongest, from being the one who's relied on. It's strange, 3D. I think it's because of this, though. He appears to be approachable. I mean, younger Gojo not so much, but I digress. It's a loneliness, though, that I can't begin to imagine. And worse, it's a loneliness that has become more and more romanticized in media. The romanticizing of the strongest, and the weight of expectation that comes with it, in spite of the loneliness, in spite of the trauma, in spite of the loss. So I've got a question. Do you think Gojo believes he has to be perfectly strong all the time? He wants to change the outdated jujutsu system. He wants a better future for people like Yuji and the next generation of sorcerers. But does he believe the only way to achieve that future is by never allowing himself to be anything less than the strongest? I'll leave that question to you and let me know your thoughts in the comments. The answer to that question really determines whether he plays a more of an active role in his deterrence, or the opposite, or maybe he thinks it's a burden, and he might believe he's the only one capable of carrying that burden. But when does the protector become the problem himself? A person so powerful no one can hold accountable is also a liability by definition. The problem doesn't come about because Gojo's evil. It's that someone with overwhelming power could act without real restraint. And if no one can stop or hold him accountable, society has to trust that he'll always choose correctly. Does Gojo know that's a problem? His involvement in training students shows us he does understand. It's arguably an attempt to distribute the deterrence. So in reality, To be the deterrence of evil, the reason for meaningful peace, one has to be inherently good, peaceful, and have good judgment, ultimately. They need to be able to tell the difference between right and wrong, and how they choose to respond must bring peace. And as such, they enforce rules and boundaries, drawing the line at what is acceptable for peace to remain. And I find that constant shift in power very interesting. I made a point earlier alluding to this, the evolution of cursed spirits, their need to get stronger, faster, and smarter, all work in service of overcoming Gojo and his influence with other Jujutsu sorcerers, who ultimately also evolved because of his presence. I'm not saying that he's the only reason or the main reason for such growth, but his being there does play a part, even when it's not significant. But it's the same for us as well. Human military might and their advancements like nuclear weapons, missiles, even things outside of technology like strategy, for instance, all prove this. Just to threaten retaliation, humanity will build devastating machines of war. But it's that knowledge of such devastating power that is a deterrence. Deterrence is good because it can prevent violence without anyone having to fight. But its very nature is imperfect, aggressive, terrifying, and paradoxically violent. It's true psychological violence. There are, of course, other shows where the paradox exists. Shows like My Hero, for instance. Who else but All Might? Now, it could repeat all the points I made earlier in relation to Gojo's deterrence, but I want to look at how different deterrence is in terms of just pure presence. All Might and Gojo both represent what it is to be the deterrent, the reason peace is preserved without violence, but they differ in how they feel. Gojo's presence is dark, destructive, free, and powerful, whilst All Might is more hopeful, symbolic, heroic, and powerful, of course. But that makes sense, because All Might's your prototypical textbook superhero, a hero with no flaw, really. Gojo, on the other hand, isn't so cut and dry. That's because his world isn't built around your typical good version of evil. Not that All Might's world is completely black and white. Both do work with morally gray worlds, but Gojo just happens to be a little bit more on that darker shade of that gray. But perhaps Gojo's world dictates how Gojo's presence looks. And I find that interesting. One's world and its context dictating how the deterrence is perceived to us. It's obvious when you really think about it, but it's something you do manage to take for granted. The paradox exists to challenge, or rather to highlight, that power can create peace, but power alone can never sustain it. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe.